What is up, my friends? Welcome to Ride Review, and today we are doing another e-skate review. We are checking out this thing. This is called the Hammer Sledge, which is an awesome name. This is made by Backfire boards. Well, there's quite a few different companies out there that are making e-skate, you know, electric skateboards, longboards, etc. Backfire boards has been on my radar for a while as one of the, I don't know, more reputable ones. It seems like they're making pretty high quality products. This is the first one I've gotten to get my hands on. And let me tell you, it's awesome. Like, definitely crushed it in terms of the quality. And it's, you know, it's not really a longboard. I've just been calling it the land board because that's kind of a fun name. If you have ridden other e-skate that are on more, you know, typical skateboard or longboard wheels, this thing feels a lot different. It's got these big old 6-inch pneumatic wheels. These are the ones that come stock on it. You can upgrade these to some, I think they're called like Cloudfire or Cloudscape wheels that are the same size, but, you know, different material that have a better rolling efficiency, which I'll probably do at some point. But anyways, these much bigger diameter, that means they can roll over pretty much anything. You know, rocks or sticks in the road, no problem now. I can roll right over railroad tracks on this thing, even if I'm going slow. Again, no problem. You know, you wouldn't want to hit the tracks almost parallel because these wheels are thin enough they would fall in there, but if you're going perpendicular, roll right over it, no problem. It's huge too, and it, I mean, it certainly does weigh a lot. This tips the scales at right about 40 pounds, so this is not a convenient e-skate that you could bring into work with you. Not that that stops me from using it for my go-to transportation and lugging it into stores and whatnot with me, because it's just so much fun to ride. I love how this thing feels. If you're a snowboarder, you're going to love it. That's why I do, because it feels like carving on a snowboard. I have ridden a lot of e-skate before this, you know, mostly electric longboards, and I'm, you know, pretty good on them. And so I was surprised when I jumped on this, and there was a bit of a learning curve. It was a little bit more difficult for me to ride at first, because it doesn't feel anything like a normal longboard. Mostly that's from these the trucks on here. Let's get it flipped around. These are double kingpin trucks. I haven't, you know, ridden on a setup like this before, but, you know, essentially you have, it's sort of like this double, you know, kind of a stacked double truck in here. So it has, you know, a lot more room to travel in multiple directions. And the end result is that, you know, even though this board is absolutely massive, it can carve amazingly well. It's surprisingly nimble. You can really turn sharp on this bad boy. I have a Meepo Mini 2, which is, you know, for comparison, an electric skateboard that's probably about this tall next to this one. This big board is more agile. It can turn sharper. It's wild. Double kingpin trucks. They're incredible. And so when you factor in, you know, how fun this thing is to ride, how nimble it is, it's just, I've been using it for my go-to transportation for a lot of things, where normally before I would take my Meepo Mini 2 all over the place because it's small, it's light, it's easy to carry it in places with me. I will go to the trouble to lug this thing in because it's just so much fun, and also the range on it. It's got way more range than the Mini. You know, so speaking of range, let's talk about the electronics on this thing. Now, something I really like about Backfire boards is that they give you all the specs in great detail for all of the components on the board. So this is the battery right here, and it's so they've got it, there's like these different segments on here. This allows it to flex, so as the board flexes, you know, the battery unit can flex as well, not going to get damaged. And this is a pretty dang big battery too for an e-skate. We're looking at 820 watt hours. It is a lithium polymer, not lithium ion. Lithium polymer, they can form it into, you know, a lot more creative shapes. It's lighter weight. It typically has like a higher voltage output than lithium ion. A little bit more, you know, robust in that way, but it is more expensive, and it doesn't last as long. You know, the lifespan of the battery is going to be shorter. I mean, you're not a ton, but it does make a difference. So anyways, lithium polymer battery here, and this whole entire unit also houses the ESC in it. The ESC, I think, is right up here. That is the electronic speed controller, kind of the brains of, you know, the whole motor drive system. And there was a warning sticker on here that I, you know, obviously didn't fully remove. Deal with that later, use some ISO to get it off. Anyways, ESC lives in here. This is a pretty solid one too. You know, maximum current of 150 amps, pretty high for e-skates. And it's using FOC, which is field-oriented control. You know, there's a lot of different configurations for the ESC out there that make a big difference in how the board rides. And FOC is one of the better ones. Some cheaper boards use something, PWM, I think it's called, pulse width modulation for the power control, which isn't as polished, doesn't have as smooth of an acceleration curve. So really solid stuff on here. Motors are housed down here at the bottom. There is this nice metal guard that goes, you know, around the back of the motor so that you can actually stand the board up. You cannot stand it up on the front side. We got 2 motors down here. They are 1600 watts each for a whopping 3200 watts of total possible power. That is quite a lot. They're coming out with a quad motor setup soon in the future, just in case this isn't enough. I don't know how this could not be enough, because it is just, it's bonkers. And they also give us a lot of specs on the actual motors here. They are 6370, which it's all kind of cryptic with all this e-skate stuff, but the 63 refers to the diameter of the motor unit. So, you know, 63 millimeters across, 70 is the length. So you have a length of 70. And which, again, that's a, you know, pretty beefy as e-skate motors go. And we've got 2 of them on here. And this is the housing for the belt drive. So there's a carbon belt drive in there that, you know, runs from, I don't know if it's actually carbon, but a belt drive that runs from the motors to the wheel to power them. So you get some amazing torque from that. I mean, this thing really zips. If you put it up in the turbo mode, it can fly. Now, one thing to note about the belt drive. So there's different drive systems for electric skateboards. You know, you can, the more basic ones are a hub drive where the motor is actually, you know, inside the hub of the wheel here. That's the most affordable one. And those ones actually can be really nice to ride on because they tend to freewheel the best out of any of the drive systems. So when you let off the throttle and just coast, they don't have a whole lot of rolling resistance. It feels a little bit more like a kind of a natural longboard feel. So they can be nice for that, but you know, those hub ones don't have as good a torque. They're just not as high performing. The belt drive like this is awesome. If you're looking for, you know, torque, speed, hill climbing capability, this is about as good as it gets. One downside of the whole belt setup, they're a little bit loud, and they have a noticeable amount of drag or rolling resistance. So when you let off the throttle, you know, there's some rolling resistance there. You can't really coast. You wouldn't be able to push this with your feet and really roll home, and just it'd be exhausting. There's way too much resistance, and you have to be careful about that when you're riding it too, because when you release the throttle, you got to be prepared to, you know, shift your weight balance, because the board's going to start slowing down. So you got to kind of like shift back your weight a little bit, or you might fall off the front if you're not used to feeling that resistance. One more downside of the belt drive is that the belts, the actual belts themselves, do wear out over time. You have to replace them. I don't know off the top of my head, you know, how much distance you can expect to get out of the belts. Backfire boards did include 2 extra belts in the box. They included a lot of extra stuff, a couple extra belts, 2 or maybe even 4 tubes for the tires as well, the inner tubes. Just a bunch of other, you know, extra stuff that you might need for, you know, just the wear and tear parts of the board, which is awesome. I really like that they included that. But anyways, you know, you'll want to keep an eye on that, because when they wear out, and if you don't have any spare ones, you're not gonna be able to ride, and that'd be a bummer. Okay, so we know the board has awesome electronics. Let's talk about how you control them with the remote. And it is awesome. This is, I mean, it's easily the best e-skate remote that I have gotten to spend some time with to date. It's got a real heft to it. I mean, it feels premium. So let's fire it up. Hold down the power button right here. It will turn on. Now, something really fancy on this remote is that it has a fingerprint scanner right here. I'm not sure how to actually lock the board and use it. I did set up my fingerprint, but it doesn't, you know, hasn't asked me for it yet. But that's kind of a cool security feature. You might have to turn that on somewhere in the settings. I'm gonna see if I can angle this so that, I don't know if this is even going to pick up on the GoPro screen at all. The display is not very bright on here. You know, it's not even a very bright day out, and I can't see a whole lot. You know, you don't really need to look at it a ton. But I've got it in sport mode right now. You know, we can put it over into eco. That's just going to change how fast the board can go top speed and the acceleration and braking. And bump back over to sport. If you hit this little exclamation point in the middle, it's turbo mode. The whole screen turns red. This is like full power. But it's really spicy. Like, honestly, I ride in sport most of the time. The throttle on this thing just, it feels great. You know, we're gonna, and I mean, we can go all the way up to top speed basically instantly when it's sitting on the ground. But it's got a lot of the resistance on it feels really good. It's got quite a bit of resistance here. The increase in it as you bump it up to full throttle or to braking, it feels really nice. You know, a good tactile experience. And there's so much you can do to configure this thing. You can double tap, and that's going to turn on lights on the board, which are right down here. You know, these lights they're nice to have. They're not very bright. They're very low. They're underneath the board. It's only in the back. So it helps with visibility, but you're still going to need better lights if you're riding at night. They do have some really amazing lights that are compatible with this board on their website. You can get some automatic sensing tail lights, you can get some really bright headlights. Definitely worth it if you do a lot of night riding. I don't, so you know, I make do with these, wear a headlight if I need to. Double tap that again, turn them off. Now for configuring this, you can hold down this button for just like a couple seconds and then let go, and you get in here to this settings menu. Let's see, maybe hopefully some of this will show up. Now you can check more detailed stuff on your power for the remote and the board if you're wanting to see. You can come in here and see all 12 cells of the battery, etc. Come back up and you can check your specific percentage for the remote. You know, it's like what, 267 minutes, so pretty solid there. You can come into the motor and ESC, and then you can see the operating temperature right now. Both are pretty cold, only gone a little bit. Now in here you can go to your Eco, Sport, Turbo, and you can customize these to your heart's content. I'm just gonna go into Sport. You can change the top speed, the acceleration, and the braking, and it's a percentage all the way from 0 to 100 for each of those metrics, and you can do that for Sport, for Eco, for Turbo. So you can customize this exactly how you want, 3 separate modes. Awesome. Most e-skateboards you can do some level of customization, but usually it's really basic. It's more like you can choose between maybe 1 to 4 for your acceleration, 1 to 4 for your brake, and that's just kind of, you know, it. And then they will, you know, some of those will limit the top speed down. So this one you can customize all of those parameters exactly how you like it. Now I usually ride in sport mode most of the time, which let me come back in here. You know, it's only at like 76% for speed. And even just that, I'm like, that feels fast enough. The top speed on this board, by the way, is 31 miles an hour. I haven't gone that fast yet. I'm waiting for a new full face helmet that I ordered to really put this thing to the test and do some off-road riding, which I will do in a later video. Today's more of kind of a like first impressions. We'll do some riding on the streets and maybe a little bit of off-roading. Anyways, remote's awesome. Like, it's very configurable. It feels good to use. The acceleration is great. Like, it's really well done. There's also this switch right here so that you can manually switch between forward and reverse. So if you need to go the other way, just bump that. I'm honestly mixed on having it be a physical button. It's kind of nice because it's easy and very quick to do. You don't have to fiddle with anything on the screen. But it being a physical button means it can accidentally get hit. So, you know, if you had it stuffed into your pocket this way and then pulled it out, so it hit that on the way out and you didn't know it, and then you jumped on the board and hit the throttle and it was going the other way, you know, you're gonna eat it. That wouldn't be a good time. And I haven't done that yet, but that's just, you know, something that I thought of with it that you might want to be careful of. Okay, so we're going to take it out for a little spin here. This thing really is, I mean, just, it is huge. I love having a board this big. Now, I'm a very tall rider. I am 6 feet 3 inches tall, about 190 pounds. A weight limit for the board is 265 pounds. So definitely got some room to spare there. But yeah, I love how big it is. This is just the base version too. If you want if you want a bigger board, like a bigger standing platform, they have the, what are they called, like the wing things that you can put on the side with the handles. Get a lot bigger deck space, kind of changes it. I think it makes it a little bit more stiff. But I've really been enjoying the stock setup. And if you look down here too, you can see the, you know, I have the trucks, I mean, maybe kind of loose. They're definitely more tight than they were when I first got it. If you are an e-skate rider or even just a, you know, regular longboarder, these trucks are going to feel like they're way too loose, but I would recommend actually leaving them pretty loose. I watched, you know, a bunch of guides just because I hadn't ridden a board quite like this before, and they recommended with these double kingpin trucks actually, you know, have them be a little bit more on the loose side and just get used to it. I have the back ones just a little bit tighter, probably like a, you know, half to a full crank tighter than the front, which helps with just kind of more stability at speed. But I actually really like having the agility of the board. Just because it can turn so sharp, and the, you know, the little bit wider wheelbase and the big wheels and everything, it still does feel quite stable at speed. I've only gotten it up to about maybe 23 or 24. But anyways, enough chat. So I'm going to put this into Eco. I want to show you what the default configuration of the board is like, you know, if you're just curious about that. So if we're in Eco and I just hammer on full throttle, this is all we got. This is the this is the maximum acceleration in Eco mode, and we've already hit the top speed as well, which is about 11-12 miles per hour. So, you know, Eco mode is pretty nice for learning. If you just got this, haven't ridden one like it, or, you know, maybe haven't ridden an e-skate before, Eco is a pretty handy sort of a training wheels mode. But once you get the hang of it, it's pretty boring. You know, you want to go faster than this. You know, this would probably be a pretty good mode to really be power efficient if you wanted to maximize your range. But yeah, it's not very fun. So let's go ahead and bump it on up here into sport mode. Wait for this car to go past us so we can use the full lane. So sport mode, the acceleration is quite a bit more peppy. And we're already moving at 13 miles per hour here, and even at this kind of a, you know, mid-range speed, if I hit it full throttle, it'll really take off. I mean, if you are going full throttle on this thing, you've got to be prepared to to lean forward to offset that momentum, because this has some serious torque. Let me give you a look at the acceleration off the line. So if we come down here to a stop, and then I'm just gonna go on, you know, full throttle from a dead stop. Really gotta like lean into it. There is 20 miles per hour. Piece of cake to get up to 20, and you know, we're not even in turbo mode. I mentioned this earlier, but turbo mode's honestly a little bit spicy for me. You know, depending on what riding I'm doing, that can be nice. But turbo mode is, you know, is spicy enough and goes fast enough that I would want to be wearing, you know, full body armor when I'm doing that. You know, full face helmet, everything. That's why I've typically stuck it down into sport mode. It's just because it's, you know, it's a little bit more tame, but still really fun. I feel pretty confident with my riding skills, and also just my tumbling skills. You know, if I were to wipe out and crash, you know, going around 20 miles per hour, I feel pretty good about being able to, you know, roll and tumble out of that with just some scrapes. Faster than that, need the gear for sure. All right, I wanted to show the, you know, I was talking about the agility of it and how it doesn't feel like a normal e-skate. It's definitely a lot more sensitive. You know, I'm not even shifting my body weight here, but if I just like put a little bit of pressure onto my heels or like onto my toes, then like just that, like kind of like flexing the muscles in my ankle to, you know, push on one side of my feet or the other, I can turn the board quite a bit. You know, not even putting my weight into it, which is more sensitive than I'm used to. But you know, now that I've gotten kind of practiced with it, I actually kind of like it, because it's very easy to just like get these very deep carves, and the wheels have such good traction too. Like it's bonkers. You know, turning around, even like these really sharp turns, no problem. You know, these are turns that on a full-size electric longboard, a lot of times on those you have the trucks tightened up more just for that stability at speed. So then your turning radius just, you know, it's pretty terrible. And so trying to turn around really sharp is rough. But on this, like, if you lean into it, you can just freaking turn on a dime. And, you know, I don't know, maneuvers like this, of like coming up onto this sidewalk and turning in like tight zigzaggy spaces, feels amazing on this. And it feels so counterintuitive, because this thing is just massive. You would not expect it to be this agile, but it's fantastic. All right, well, we've got to do at least one little jump in sport mode here, just to to show you the difference. So we'll hit that. Whole display tains red. Not sport mode, sorry, turbo. Turbo. Highest one is turbo. And actually, I kind of want to go into the settings here, just because I want to see what it says for turbo. Let's come down here. Turbo. So speed 100%, acceleration 100%, brake is still 60%, which is probably good. You know, you don't. It's not that fun to skid the brakes on these things. 60% is probably all that you would need in any mode. But okay, so we're in turbo. I'm gonna try to go full throttle on it, which I actually, like, I don't know that I've actually tried it, so hopefully I can manage to stay on, but here we go. Whoa. All right, let's try that one more time. Oh, I got a little board over current on my remote here. It's not, no, it's still letting me drive. Okay, do I have to just like confirm it or something maybe? It's just like vibrating constantly. It's flashing board over current. Can I turn it off? Let's try and turn it on again. Apparently it didn't like turbo mode. Like I said, this is the first time I've really tried to like full throttle it. I don't know, let's try it again and see what we can do. Yee-hoo! I need to lean in even a little bit more. Now I have a kind of a sense for it, what it feels like. Let's bring it back to a stop again here. All right, here we go. Whoa, nope, still not enough. Wow. 25. That's wild. Yeah, it's so much acceleration. And you know, they're gonna make the let's go back down to sport mode. They're gonna make the quad motor package. If this isn't enough for you, you know, like I said, how could that not be enough? That is so much pep. One thing to keep in mind with just the responsiveness of this board is that when you're going fast, speed wobbles can strike at any time. That's really true for, you know, any kind of an e-skateboard. If you get going fast, speed wobbles can sneak up on you. I don't know if you were able to see it on that last one, but when I like hit 25 and then tried to let off the throttle, I got some of the speed wobbles in there. And it's, I've found I've been surprised by them more often than not on this board, just because of it's a little bit extra sensitive. And if you just like, the tiniest little shift of your weight will just like, you know, immediately start to kind of produce that wobble effect. Now, speed wobbles are something you can learn to overcome. There's a ton of great guides and videos out there for that, so I do recommend watching those. The you know, the short version is that carving is really helpful for it. So you know, if you find that you're like getting this wobble back and forth, just pick a direction and start to carve, and that will typically kind of take care of it. You know, speed wobbles happen because you're straight lining in that kind of neutral place, and then you get the wobble. Carving will kind of force it to lean to one direction. Accelerating can also help. You know, honestly, learning how to tuck and roll. Like, spend some time learning how to safely fall off of your board, and you will thank me later. It's you never know when you might need it. Okay, so we're gonna do a little off-roading today. You know, not a lot, and you know, I'm gonna do another video later where this is just a much longer form ride test. You know, after I put a lot of miles on this thing, this is more of a first impressions. But we've got this awesome trail here. I've never tried to ride an e-skate on it because I've never had one that could go. So we're just gonna give it a whirl here. You'll see how it does. It feels crazy. I don't even know what I would compare this to. I mean, snowboarding maybe. It's kind of close. And if you look at how the trucks are moving around here, they're eating up the bumps and the unevenness in this road very well. But it is noticeably harder to stay balanced than when I'm on the pavement. You get this kind of I don't know. It's sort of like you can slide a little bit here and there, and you know the deck is constantly changing the angle that it's at. It feels kind of funky. Oh, look at that! Like I'm rolling over some kind of gnarly stuff here. Let's try it out in the grass. How about that? Oh yeah, no problem. Whoa! Thought that was going to mess me up, but it did not. All right, let's. Oh, can we make it up this? This is pretty steep. Whoa! Yeah. All right. I gotta learn how to do that better with the lean, but it had enough torque. Wheels are a little bit too wide for this single track stuff. Yeah, here we go. Man, I love being able to, I'm gonna just come back and look at that. Like being able to just roll over bumps like this. I mean, we could probably roll straight over it right there. You know, stuff like that you gotta watch out for that stuff if you're on a normal e-skate board, and this thing just goes over everything. All right, so it looks like we're down to about 60% on the battery. I'm not actually sure how many miles I've done today, but it's probably like 6 to 8, maybe, you know. So Backfire says the range on this board is 31 miles, but they're very specific about their estimate. If you know, it says it's with an 80 kilogram rider, you know, riding on flat ground. varying between like 15 to 19 miles per hour. And I think that's fairly accurate, you know, from my riding that I've done. I weigh about 86 kilograms, 190 pounds. And, you know, most of my riding is probably on flat ground, honestly. We have a little bit of hills, nothing too insane where I live. But I think I cruise a little bit faster than that. Like I probably cruise at like 20 to 22-ish. The speed on this thing is it's surprising. It sneaks up on you. You know, on my Meepo Mini 2, I will feel like I'm going so fast, then I'll look down at my remote and I'm going way slower than I thought. It's the opposite on here. I will feel like I'm not going that fast and I'll look down and be like, oh wow, I'm going 23 miles an hour. It doesn't feel like that. And I think that's just because of how stable it is. I mean, it is so stable, and when you roll over obstacles, bumps in the road, you hardly even notice them. You hardly even feel them. It's awesome. So I think that contributes to the safety, you know, feeling good at speed. But anyways, range. I think for most people, if you are, you know, actually riding to this board to have fun and not trying to be efficient with your range, then 20 to 25 miles is probably a pretty safe estimate. You know, you can push it to more if you really need to, and if you are, you know, going pedal to the metal, riding in turbo, then it's probably going to be quite a bit less, you know, maybe 15 to 20 in that case. If you are really trying to maximize your range, you could upgrade the wheels, right? So the wheels that we have on here are the pneumatic ones. They're filled with air, great grip and float. I mean, I do really like these, but you can upgrade to the Cloudfire or Cloud Strike or whatever they're called. Wheels, which are, I assume, some kind of like hard material throughout. They got a different texture, much better rolling efficiency, and I think they said you could like get as much as like an 80% increase in range if you do that. You can buy those directly from Backfire for $200. They have a little warning on there that says, you know, don't buy them from somewhere else because they won't fit. Like, you have to get them from us to fit the board, which I thought was a little suspicious, but then I realized Backfire Boards sells them cheaper than anywhere else. They sell them for $200. They cost $300 to get them straight from the manufacturer. So, all right, fair enough by me. Here's a listen to the motors up close, so you can get a kind of a sense for the volume of them. I'm gonna get going to about 20 miles per hour here. So they're, you know, they're noticeable, but they're not obnoxious. You know, if you've ridden e-bikes, then it's kind of comparable, probably about like a mid-level e-bike in terms of volume. You know, you get used to it. That's one thing I do like about my Meepo board with the hub motors is it's pretty quiet. You know, it's a little bit more stealthy, but with this bad boy, you know, there's not going to be any confusion about whether or not it's electric. Okay, now we're going to the rolling resistance, right? I was talking about that, where the belt drives, you have some rolling resistance. They don't freewheel super well. So I'm gonna get going about 20 miles per hour here. We'll get over this speed bump, and then I'm just gonna let off the throttle, and you'll see I have to like kind of shift my weight back. And now we're down 18, 17, 16, 15, 14. We're losing steam pretty quickly, just coasting. You know, we're already down to 8, 7, 6. You know, we didn't get very far, what, like 100 feet? You know, and so yeah, I can push it, but I'm pretty sure it would be much less work to just walk and carry it than to try to push it very far. So keep that in mind. You know, that's the one thing that can kind of give you maybe a little bit of range anxiety with a setup like this versus a smaller board that has a hub motor that you can push like a normal skateboard and get home. Not quite so easy on here. Alrighty folks, that is it for today's video. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is just first impressions video. You know, I've ridden about 75 miles on this board. Plan to do a lot more. I'm going to be doing some true off-road riding once I get some better gear for that. We'll do some speed tests in turbo mode. And, you know, I'll be doing a follow-up review after I've really put this thing through the ringer. First impressions, it's awesome. I love the build quality on it. I think they picked really solid components. across the board. Like it's very well done. There's a lot of opportunity for, you know, modding it out, tricking it out, swapping out parts and stuff, which is, you know, a lot of fun of doing e-skate is the whole tinkering part of it, right? But even just in the stock configuration here, this thing is awesome. Like, I think they they did a killer job, and I love the name, the Hammer Sledge. It's fun to say, it's good stuff. So if you got questions about this board, then please let me know down in the comments section. I'll get back to you there. If there's types of writing you want to do, or you know, if you want to see like, oh, can I do this? Can I do that? Let me know, and I will test that out and get back to you. You can also look in the description of this video for a link to the written review back on our website, ridereview.com. It's got you know, all the stuff I forgot to say in the video. I've got a bunch of pictures and, you know, some more specs and details, fun stuff like that. Okay, guys, thanks for coming along. Ride safe. Catch you in the next one.